everyone. This is Michelle Gramoglia, the President and CEO here at Woodland Pond, and this is my weekly address for Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. I have not a ton of topics today, but they're all very important topics. So let me start first with the impending storm. I will be issuing a SARA alert message momentarily, and I'm going to actually send it out to everyone that we have on our listserv. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to test and ensure that our families and loved ones that have signed up, or that you have signed up if you're a resident, are actually receiving our messages. It's the beginning of the year. It's a great time for us to ensure that those loved ones or contacts for our residents that are feeling or believing that they are receiving our emergency messages are actually receiving them. I will include this note in my email when I circulate the link to this address today. But it's going to be very important for all loved ones and residents that do not receive these alerts to let concierge or reception know so that we can add you to the alerts. These alerts will come to you either on your landline, your cell phone in the form of a phone call or a text message, and or to your email address, whatever you've provided. So this would be a great time to test those alert message systems. As to the specifics of the storm that we are expecting, if you look out the window right now, it's snowing. It's 12:20 on Tuesday. This is not going to last, according to the forecasters. Very soon, this is going to turn to very heavy rain. We're expecting somewhere between a minimum of 2 to 3 inches of rain in the next 24 hours. We are also anticipating high winds, sustained winds, and also wind gusts that could exceed 50 miles an hour. With all of the existing, there is still snow on some of the trees. We anticipate that there will be icing. We anticipate, obviously, with the high winds and the weather, that the risk of power outages is high. And for the residents, it's important for you to be thinking right now about what you need to do to be prepared for the event of a prolonged power outage. Knock on wood, we've never had a prolonged power outage at Woodland Pond, nothing more than a couple of hours, but if there are wide-scale power outages, we need to be prepared. So what I would recommend is between now and whatever you're planning on doing next in your day, you should do the following. If you reside in independent living, first and foremost, find plenty of warm clothes, winter blankets, hats, gloves, etc., of things that you would need in case your heat or electric sources of heat that you might have go out. Okay, the new cottages are completely on electric. Independent living is not on a generator. It's not supposed to be particularly cold tonight relative to the time of year, but it's still cold. So find your blankets, find your warm clothes, and get everything out and be handy. That's for inside the building as well. Make sure that you have water that can be drank, so potable water to the extent that you need it. And most importantly, make sure that your cell phone batteries are charged. If you have any devices that you like to use, especially anything that's cellular enabled or might help you kill time, like a tablet that has a game on it or something, make sure all of those devices are charged, and ensure that you have a battery powered light source available. If you do not, I believe that Dedrick's has some for sale, but it's very important that you have a battery powered light source available and that you know that it has new batteries or working batteries. The last note for residents in independent living, and this is particular to especially our newer residents, if you for any reason rely on emergency power for life-saving means, in other words, you are on an oxygen concentrator and don't have tanks, or if you use tanks and you're out of tanks and potentially would need to plug in a concentrator that you use and own, if you use a CPAP or a BiPAP machine, or if there is any other reason that you rely on emergency power for life-saving means, I need you to call concierge right now and let them know that. Again, this will be in my messages that I send out shortly. The other thing that we ask of you is if you reside in independent living and you need to ascend or descend a set of stairs in the event of a power outage to be evacuated, and you cannot ascend or descend that flight of stairs to be evacuated, we need concierge to know that. We maintain lists of those residents that rely on power for life-saving means and those that would need to be evacuated with the assistance of first responders, because you cannot do stairs. So if you live on a floor that's below ground level at egress, and you would have to climb those stairs to get out in the event of a power outage and the elevators are not working, we need your name on our list. So please call and let concierge know that you would need to do stairs, but you can't do stairs in order to be evacuated. Now that, again, is strictly all of those things that I just said are strictly for independent living. For the health center, we have a record already of those residents that rely on any power for life-saving means. We certainly have a lot more people on oxygen concentrators, using CPAPs, BiPAPs, et cetera, in the health center, and we have those records. You don't need to call and let us know. We also know your status in terms of being able to evacuate on stairs. In this case, it would just be assisted living residents coming downstairs. And we know who can do that, and we know who would need assistance. So just please be aware of that. You don't need to call us on that. But it would still be a very good idea to have blankets and warm things handy in case for some reason we lose heat. There are many parts of the health center that are on emergency power, but we don't want to take any chances. So go ahead and pull out your blankets, go ahead and pull out your warm things, and it's always better to be prepared now when, before the actual event occurs. We have, of course, advised all of the staff to make sure that they understand what their expectations are in the event of a power outage. There's a possibility that we have a power outage. In the health center, we might only be serving cold food because for some reason we might not be able to, cook food or whatever. Obviously, we're going to provide, whatever we need to. You will be fed and those kinds of things, but there may be some service interruptions if we have a power outage, and we just need everyone to be prepared for that. Just one other note for independent living. If you have any medications that you have that are on short supply and you don't have enough to get through the next, let's say, 24 to 48 hours, this is the time to make sure that you're getting access to those medications. Okay. The next comment that I'll make relates to transportation for tomorrow. Transportation that we're providing and transportation that you may be thinking you are providing on your own or someone is picking you up. I would anticipate that there is a good chance that Woodland Pond transportation may be canceled for all or part of the day tomorrow. And likewise, doctor's appointments and so forth will not be able to be attended. We are not going to put our drivers or our residents at risk unnecessarily. So please anticipate that there is a possibility that we will be canceling transportation tomorrow. And you should also be looking at your schedule for tomorrow. And quite frankly, I would change anything on your schedule for the rest of the day today and tomorrow that's not critical, and try to find a date that's not within the next 24 to 48 hours. It's just better to be prepared and take care of that now. But again, there is a good possibility that we will have no choice but to cancel Woodland Pond transportation for tomorrow if it means keeping our residents and our staff members safe. If you have questions on any of those things, certainly feel free to contact me, my assistant, Lindsay, either front desk or anyone else in a leadership or nursing position, and anyone can help you. The next thing relates to the preceding storm, and I want to just go through a couple of things. First and foremost, I think we got a little bit more snow than anybody actually anticipated. And it obviously took the hired firm who does have, significant number of staff. I'm sure you saw them all around in the last 24 to 48 hours working on things. But when that happens, things take longer for clearing and so forth. I just want everyone to keep in mind that if you need your car cleared and we haven't gotten to that car yet, we need you to call concierge or reception and let us know at least 1 hour before you need your vehicle, so that we can clear out your vehicle for you. Okay. The other thing is as we go into the next, let's say, days and weeks, we can absolutely anticipate that anywhere where there is snow, there can also then be black ice near it, as the days go on and temperatures increase, decrease, a freeze happens, so forth. We have a lot of places on this campus where water drains from snow across sidewalks into parking lots. It's just the way that the things flow, and they may look like water in the day and then freeze to black ice. You must wear sensible shoes. And really, this is the time of year that, unless you're absolutely certain of your footing and your gait, this is not the time of year to be going out for walks when there's a high possibility of the freeze and thaw and the black ice. If you do feel like you need to go on a walk, please stay on the sidewalks. There is a great risk of some kind of an accident happening on the circle road, whether it be a slip and fall and your purse might not work out in the outer perimeter. These giant plows are coming through both from the municipality and then from our contractor, which narrows the roadway. Folks are automatically forced more into the roadway because of the snow piles. So this is not the time of year to be walking on the perimeter road. This is the time of year to walk on the sidewalks. Very, very important. Okay. Any questions on the storm or anything like that? I've already told you who you can reach out to on that. The next thing I wanted to mention relates to an uptick that we're seeing on campus in not COVID. We always have a baseline of a few COVID cases. Currently, I don't think we have any residents in the health center that have COVID. We had a couple in the preceding weeks. They've cleared up. We have a couple of staff members that have reported testing positive for COVID. Very low symptoms, but people are being prudent and testing so that they're not coming to work with COVID. So we've had a couple of those cases, but that's typical. Same thing in independent living. We've had a number of cases in residents, but it's a small number, less than a handful. And again, low symptoms. So that's sort of our baseline. But it is flu season. And if we think about, before COVID was a thing, we always had cases of the flu, and flu can be nasty. Influenza A or influenza B can be nasty, especially in a compromised population. So we currently do have a couple of residents in the health center that have tested positive for the flu. They are being treated and on the road to recovery. Most of our residents, to our knowledge, are vaccinated against the 2023-2024 flu strain, but it's obviously not a sure thing. And it may not prevent illness, but it may mitigate some of the illness symptoms. What we need to do now is we need to do a few things. If you feel comfortable masking, mask. There's no mask mandate. And there's a good question about, what are the most effective ways to prevent germs from spreading? And we know that the most effective ways to keep germs from spreading is to not be around people if you're sick. That's basic science. That's irrefutable. That is the only sure way for us not to spread germs. We are not closing anything down except for communal dining and assisted living right now, and I'll explain that in a moment. But if you are feeling symptomatic of any illness, and this is not just related to the current uptick that we're seeing in seasonal illness, you should not be around people. And I know that this is something that we all, know in the back of our heads, and that's basic. We've known that ever since we were little. But I also understand people, don't want to be isolated or may not think that your little sniffle is actually the flu. But what might be your little sniffle might be the flu, but you're not feeling an acute high level of symptoms because you've been vaccinated. And the vaccine, again, may not prevent the illness, but it may mitigate your symptoms significantly. That's not going to change your contagion level. So we need to be really mindful of the fact that a sniffle, a cough, a tickle, even the absence of a fever could be any virus that's going around right now. We know we have RSV. We don't have, knock on wood, we don't have any on campus right now that we're aware of. But there's the flu, COVID, common cold, any myriad of things. And the basic human protection is to stay in when you're not feeling well. If you find yourself in that boat, please report that to a nurse, and don't go find the nurse, please. Please don't come out. Please call a nurse. If you live in any part of the health center, you can call on the phone to the unit desks, or you can use your call bell. If you reside in independent living and you're not feeling well, you need to report that to one of our wellness nurses, and you can call either Mary Jo or Angel, and we will let you know what the next best steps are. And that may include contacting your primary care physician, monitoring your symptoms. There's a myriad of things, but we need you not to come out and not come into common areas or communal areas if you are experiencing symptoms of any illness, because you could be contagious even if you're not experiencing high levels of symptoms. We owe that to one another. The other basic, very basic, fundamental protection for not spreading germs is covering your cough, covering your sneeze, and washing your hands frequently throughout the day. And this is not just for residents. None of this is just for residents. This is all for staff, loved ones, etc. You're supposed to wash your hands to the full tune of Happy Birthday to You, sung all the way through and not at super high speed. You should be using soap. You should be using a lot of friction. You don't need to go quite as far as a surgical scrub, but just a little hand wash isn't enough. You need to wash for at least 20 full seconds, counted 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, etc. You need to use soap, and you need to dry your hands really well. And that's very important. A lot of people don't realize how critical that step is, because if you don't dry your hands really well, and I even go the step of using a paper towel to open the door to the public restroom or whatever after I wash my hands, you could have some residual germ material on your hands, and it's going to travel and stick on surfaces if your hands are damp, even if you wash them, much better than if your hands are dry. So make sure your hands are completely dry. Make sure you're washing your hands thoroughly many times a day, especially after you go to the bathroom, especially after you cough, sneeze, etc. And then report any symptoms to us. Now, as to the communal dining in assisted living, we are not worried about resident cases. I mean, we're worried about resident cases, but our main concern right now is we've had 3 or 4 staff members that have tested positive for the flu in the last couple of days. All of our staff have been masking at work with N95s or KN95s for almost a month now, because we had an initial case of COVID, and then we've had a couple more cases of the flu. So the staff have been masking completely with N95 or KN95 for well over a month. But there's community-based transmission, and we are seeing staff that are doing the right thing and staying out of work because they have symptoms of illness and taking a flu influenza test, and they're coming back positive. So because we have had a couple of resident cases on assisted living, and now several, maybe 3 staff member cases of the flu in assisted living, we are not doing communal dining. And in the event that this happens again, and it happens to start on a weekend, which I know it did this time, and you don't hear an explicit message from us, and I'm not always available to do a weekly address or those kinds of things, you should always assume that that's what's going on. We never just stop communal dining to stop communal dining. If that's happening, it's because we're concerned that we've seen a little bit more virus activity than we like, and we want that not to proliferate in the most critical of environments, which is close proximity and spittle possibly being shared, certainly airspace being shared. It doesn't make the most sense. And inherently, although all of our residents, just by age, are at a higher risk of complications for any virus, those that are in our health center are tend to be much more compromised than folks in independent living. So we need to be prudent. I think that's all I have today on the virus topic. The last thing I just want to touch on, and this is really important, we have seen a persistent and frustrating misuse of the handicap parking spots. And once again, I am imploring everyone to please be mindful, and this goes for visitors, residents, staff, etc. Just having a handicap tag doesn't on our campus translate into I can use any handicapped spot that I want for as long as I want. We have intentional spaces for 3-hour parking and 24-hour parking, which means you stay there for 24 hours and no more. And then we just have general spots. And the reason we have those, in particular the 3-hour spots, is for the people that have quick business in the building and then are leaving. And we're seeing time and time again that people are staying in those 3-hour spots well beyond not only 3 hours, but it might be 24 hours or 48 hours. And we know that, because there should be no situation when I come in the morning and there's frost on a car in a 3-hour spot, because it just wouldn't happen. We are asking you again to do this. We are going to beginning to actually paper the cars that are violating this, because there are people that are not able to access the services that they need to in our designated spots because others are frankly abusing the spots. If you are parking in one of those spots because you have a mobility concern or something like that, you need to speak to one of the nursing staff or to a director of the department in the area in which you live. So if you're selecting to stay in a 3-hour parking spot because you're having mobility issues and that's the closest available spot, we need to know that, because there are other ways that we can assist you. We can assist you with your problem so that it doesn't become a problem for your neighbors. Okay, but we need to know what those are. So we will be getting to paper those cars that we are seeing as being overly using those spots, and let you know what what expectation is. I think that's all I have for today. If you need me, I'm around the rest of the week. Questions are welcome, and I hope everybody stays safe. Thank you.